The lights of the CNN studio burned bright, reflecting off polished steel and glass as the cameras zoomed in. Tonight wasn't just another political debate. It was a spectacle, the kind of event designed to grip a divided nation. At the center of the stage sat Jasmine Crockett, fiery and unrelenting, her eyes gleaming with defiance. She had built her reputation on bold statements and sharp attacks, and tonight she planned to bring that same energy against two of the biggest Republican names in America. Across from her sat Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, calm as stone in his wheelchair, his presence steady and unshaken. Beside him was Donald Trump, larger than life as always, his expression shifting between smug amusement and stern determination. The unlikely duo looked like a united front, Abbott's discipline balanced by Trump's bombast. The moderator's voice cut through the tension. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's special debate. On stage we have Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Governor Greg Abbott, and former President Donald Trump. Tonight, the nation will hear directly from them on the issues that divide America. The audience buzzed with anticipation, cameras flashing as the first question landed. Congresswoman Crockett, you've accused both Governor Abbott and President Trump of failing the American people. What makes you confident you can hold your ground against them tonight? Crockett smirked, leaning into her microphone, her voice sharp and deliberate. Because when bullies team up, it only proves they're scared. And tonight, I'm here to remind both of them that their time is up. The crowd gasped, some erupting into cheers, others booing loudly. Trump chuckled under his breath while Abbott remained motionless, his calm demeanor in stark contrast to her fiery tone. The duel was set. One woman, armed with fury, against two men, one a master of chaos, the other a master of composure. America was about to witness a political storm unlike anything seen before. The opening seconds had already ignited the room, but Jasmine Crockett wasn't done. She leaned forward, her voice cutting through the applause and boos alike, her words sharpened like blades. Let's be clear, she said, locking eyes with the camera. Governor Abbott left Texans freezing during a power grid collapse. And Donald Trump? He left Americans divided, angry, and abandoned during a pandemic. These two men don't represent leadership, they represent failure. Gasps rippled through the audience, followed by thunderous applause from her supporters. Some even stood, fists in the air, cheering her boldness. Trump leaned back in his chair, smirking, his hand casually waving as if brushing her off. Wrong. Totally wrong. Jasmine, you're all talk, no action. Everyone knows it. If it wasn't for me, this country would have collapsed. And Abbott, he's done an incredible job in Texas. Everybody knows it. Your attacks? Just noise. The crowd roared with mixed reactions, some booing, others chanting Trump's name. Cameras zoomed in on his trademark grin, the familiar bravado that both enraged and energized viewers. Abbott, meanwhile, remained calm, waiting for the noise to settle. He finally leaned into his microphone, his voice steady and firm. Congresswoman, while you shout about problems, Texans live solutions. We don't wait for Washington to save us, we rebuild, we protect our freedoms, and we lead the nation in jobs. That's real leadership, not hashtags and sound bites. The audience exploded again, this time with Abbott supporters chanting, Texas. Texas. The energy surged, the clash intensifying as Crockett's fury collided with Trump's bravado and Abbott's unshakable composure. The lines were drawn, Crockett versus the unlikely alliance of Trump and Abbott. And the night was only just beginning. The studio lights gleamed hotter, amplifying the tension as if the room itself could barely contain the storm. Crockett refused to be drowned out by the chants of Texas. Texas, or Trump's smirk. She slammed her hand lightly on the podium, her voice booming across the studio. You two sit here pretending to be champions of the people, but let's not forget, Trump fueled chaos in Washington while Abbott left Texans stranded. You call yourselves leaders? Leaders don't abandon their people. Leaders don't profit off division. The crowd erupted, half cheering, half booing, the sound deafening. Trump leaned forward, pointing directly at her. Nobody's abandoned anyone, Jasmine. I built the strongest economy this country has ever seen, and Abbott has the strongest state in the nation. People are leaving your districts and your policies to come to Texas and Florida. Why? Because we know how to win. You know how to complain. The audience split into two camps, Trump, clashing with Crockett. The moderator tried to speak, but Abbott, still calm, raised his hand and the noise dimmed. Congresswoman, Abbott said, his voice cutting cleanly through the chaos, when you attack Texas, you're attacking the millions of families who call it home. We don't crumble in hard times, we rebuild. And we don't wait for outrage on Twitter to tell us what leadership looks like. We live it, every single day. The crowd roared again, Abbott's calm strength balancing Trump's bravado and Crockett's fire. Cameras zoomed in on Crockett's face, still fierce, but now visibly frustrated as her fury clashed against a united front. The battle lines were no longer just about policy. This was about endurance, who could outlast, outmaneuver, and dominate under the blinding lights of live television. The moderator tried to interject, but Trump cut in first, his voice booming with the energy of a rally. Jasmine, you've got guts, I'll give you that. But guts don't pay bills, guts don't build jobs, and guts don't protect borders. Abbott and I, we do results. Big results. You? Just speeches. Angry speeches. The audience erupted again, some laughing, others shouting in protest. Trump leaned back with a grin, basking in the noise like a showman. Abbott, calm and deliberate, followed immediately. His tone contrasted Trump's bombast, but together their words landed like a 1-2 punch. Congresswoman Crockett, the problem isn't your passion. The problem is your aim. You fire off insults, but when it comes to delivering real solutions, you miss every time. Texans, and Americans, don't need fireworks. They need focus. And that's what we bring. The audience roared, chants of Abbott. Abbott blending with Trump, until the room felt like it might shake. The alliance of fire and steel, chaos and calm, was overwhelming. Crockett tried to cut in, her frustration boiling over. You think you can gang up on me? You think two bullies shouting the same old slogans can scare me? She slammed her hand on the podium, her voice rising. I won't be silenced by arrogance, and I won't let Texans or Americans forget the failures you represent. But Trump leaned forward, grinning like he'd been waiting for this moment. Silence? Jasmine, nobody could silence you. And yet, somehow, Abbott just did. Calm beats chaos every time. The crowd roared, half in laughter, half in thunderous applause. Crockett's fire was strong, but now the united force of Abbott's composure and Trump's bravado threatened to drown her completely. The roar of the crowd rolled through the studio like thunder, and for a moment it seemed as if the alliance of Abbott and Trump had completely seized control of the stage. But Jasmine Crockett wasn't ready to bow out. She straightened her shoulders, her eyes flashing with defiance as she leaned into the microphone. You think this is strength? She snapped, her voice sharp and fierce. Two men ganging up on one woman doesn't make you leaders, it makes you cowards. You shout about Texas pride, you brag about winning, but when real people suffer, you're nowhere to be found. You hide behind slogans, and you hide behind each other. Her supporters erupted in applause, some standing and clapping as if she'd landed a direct hit. Crockett pressed forward, her passion spilling into every word. The people of America deserve leaders who show up, who don't play games on TV, who don't just wait for applause lines. And the truth is, your calm, Governor, is just neglect dressed up. And your bravado, Mr. Trump, is just noise. Trump sat back, smirking, shaking his head with exaggerated disbelief. Noise? Jasmine, the only noise here is you shouting. Everyone knows it. He gestured toward the audience, who roared back with a chant of, Trump. Trump. Abbott, however, leaned in slowly, his voice calm, deliberate, almost surgical. Congresswoman, passion without discipline doesn't solve problems. And insults won't change the fact that Texans, and Americans, know results when they see them. They've seen them in Texas. They've seen them in our policies. That's leadership, whether you admit it or not. The audience cheered, the sound splitting the room again. Crockett had fired back hard, but the calm and chaos of Abbott and Trump together was a force unlike anything she'd faced before. The debate stage now felt less like a discussion and more like a battlefield. Crockett's fire was undeniable, her voice slicing through the chants, her words fueled with raw determination. But the alliance across from her was a wall of contrast, Trump's booming bravado hammering at every weak point, and Abbott's calm precision dismantling her arguments with surgical control. Crockett, refusing to lose ground, shot back again. Governor Abbott talks about results? Let me remind everyone watching, Texans froze while he failed to protect their grid. And Donald Trump? He failed to protect America when we needed leadership most. They don't care about solutions. They care about power. Her supporters erupted, clapping and shouting, "That's right." The studio seemed split in two, each side roaring louder than the other. Trump leaned in, his voice sharp and mocking. "Jasmine, you're very angry. Very angry. But anger doesn't fix anything. Abbott and we've done things. Big things. You talk, we build. You complain, we deliver. It's that simple." The crowd roared, some laughing, others booing. Abbott followed, calm as ever, his words dropping like steady blows. "Congresswoman, every time you shout, you prove our point. Texas didn't collapse, it recovered stronger. America didn't crumble, it kept moving. The difference is this: when challenges come, we act. You react. That's not leadership." The studio erupted again, this time louder, chants of Abbott. Abbott, mixing with Trump. Trump. Crockett's fire blazed, but the double team was relentless. She was being pressed harder than ever before. The cameras panned across the audience, catching the electricity of the moment. This wasn't just a debate anymore. It was survival, and Crockett was running out of room to strike back. The studio had turned into a roaring coliseum, cheers, boos, chants clashing in a storm of sound. Jasmine Crockett gripped her podium, her fiery gaze fixed on Abbott and Trump. Her words came out sharper now, almost desperate, each syllable loaded with defiance. "You think you can bully me into silence," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "You hide behind each other, but I stand alone, and I will not back down. America deserves leaders who fight for the people, not leaders who gang up on them for applause." Her side of the audience cheered wildly, clapping, stomping, raising signs in the air. But the momentum didn't last long. Trump chuckled, leaning forward with that signature smirk. "Jasmine, nobody's bullying you. You're doing fine all by yourself, shouting, flailing, making speeches. But speeches don't build jobs, speeches don't secure borders, and speeches don't keep the lights on in Texas." He gestured toward Abbott. "That's what real leadership looks like." Abbott followed smoothly, his tone calm but piercing. "Congresswoman, you confuse noise for strength. But Texans, and Americans, see the truth. Anger without direction doesn't inspire. It divides. And tonight, your fury isn't exposing us. It's exposing you." The audience exploded in chants, louder than ever, "Trump! Abbott! Trump! Abbott!" Crockett's face tightened, her frustration clear. For the first time, her fire seemed to falter as the double pressure mounted. The camera zoomed in on the three of them, one woman battling with fire, one man steady as stone, and one larger-than-life showman feeding off the roar of the crowd. It was no longer just a debate, it was a spectacle, and Crockett was fighting to keep from being swallowed by it. The energy in the studio was electric, every clap and chant bouncing off the walls like thunder. Crockett's chest rose and fell as she tried to steady herself, her fiery defiance flickering but not yet extinguished. She leaned toward the microphone again, her voice trembling between fury and determination. "You can mock me, you can team up against me, but the truth is, America sees your failures. They remember the chaos, they remember the suffering, and no amount of calm speeches or showman grins will erase that." Her supporters roared, but before the sound could carry long, Abbott's steady voice cut through, his calm presence commanding the stage. "Congresswoman," he said, his tone measured, deliberate, unshakable, "Americans don't want to relive chaos. They want stability. They want results. And when history looks back, it won't remember the shouting. It will remember who stood firm when the storm came." The audience thundered in approval, the chant of "Abbott! Abbott!" swelling again. Cameras zoomed in on him, composed, unflinching, every word landing with weight. Trump followed with a booming laugh. "Exactly right. Jasmine, you tried to bring the fire. Abbott brought the calm. I bring the fight. Together? You never stood a chance." The crowd erupted in chants, this time so loud the moderator's voice couldn't even break through. It was clear now, Crockett's fury had met its match, not just in one opponent, but in two, a force of composure and charisma overwhelming her every move. The night was reaching its breaking point. Crockett's fire still burned, but Abbott and Trump had turned the blaze into a spotlight shining back on her. The debate floor was a battlefield of sound, chants of Abbott, Trump, and Crockett, clashing in waves that rattled the studio walls. Jasmine Crockett, though visibly shaken by the double barrage, leaned in one more time, her voice fiery and unyielding. "You think calm speeches and cheap applause make you leaders? No. Leadership is standing alone when it's hard, fighting for the people when it's unpopular. I may be outnumbered on this stage, but I will never be outnumbered by the truth." Her words drew a loud cheer from her side of the audience. For a brief moment, the fire she carried sparked something powerful, her base rallying behind her passion. Trump chuckled, wagging his finger at her. "Jasmine, you're not standing for the people, you're standing for yourself. Everyone knows it. And it's why you keep losing. America wants winners, not whiners." The audience erupted, laughter and cheers mixing together. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's triumphant grin. Abbott, however, delivered the line that shifted the room. His tone was steady, his expression calm, his words cutting through like a blade. "Congresswoman, you came here to expose us. But all you've exposed is that fury without direction collapses under pressure. Texans, and Americans, know that calm resolve always outlasts chaos." The roar of applause was deafening, the chants of "Texas! Texas!" filling every corner of the studio. Crockett's fire flickered, her defiance strong, but her control slipping. The stage belonged to Abbott and Trump now, the unlikely alliance that had turned her fury into their triumph. The air in the studio felt charged, like lightning had just struck and everyone was waiting for the echo. Jasmine Crockett stood firm, her passion still burning, but her shoulders heavy under the relentless assault. Abbott and Trump sat poised, two very different men, yet in this moment, perfectly aligned. The moderator tried to regain control. "Final remarks before we close. Governor Abbott, former President Trump, Congresswoman Crockett, what do you want Americans to take away from tonight?" Crockett jumped in first, her voice trembling but fierce. "What I want people to know is this: no matter how many bullies stand against me, I will fight for justice, for equality, and for the people forgotten by men who think calmness or bravado is enough. I will not be silenced." Her supporters erupted in cheers, the fire of defiance alive in their applause. Trump leaned in, smiling, his voice booming with confidence. And America saw exactly why she's not ready. Too much heat, not enough results. Abbott and I, we build, we win, and we'll keep winning. Big time. The crowd roared in laughter and applause. Abbott closed it out with his signature calm, his tone measured but powerful. Tonight, Americans saw the difference between fury and focus. Leadership isn't about how loud you speak, it's about how steady you stand. And no matter how heated the storm, calm resolve will always win. The audience erupted in a thunderous ovation, chants of Abbott. Trump, shaking the studio as Crockett stood frozen, her fiery passion no match for the united force against her. The camera zoomed in one last time, Crockett defiant but isolated, Trump grinning with satisfaction, Abbott calm and unflinching. The debate ended not just with words, but with a message: fury burns fast, but calm endures. Tonight's debate was more than just a clash of voices, it was a test of character. Jasmine Crockett came with fire, but fire alone can burn out quickly. What America saw from Greg Abbott was composure, discipline, and strength. What they saw from Donald Trump was energy, confidence, and relentless fight. Together, they stood unshaken against every attack. At the end of the night, one thing became clear: fury fades, but calm resolve endures. And that is the true mark of leadership.